Hey guys, welcome to Studio Wildlife. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It means so much to us. Today, I'm going to show you how I painted this jaguar sketch in acrylics. So to start, using very thin watered down paint, I decided to block in the jaguar or the panther with a green wash. I did this to block in my background and just outline the shape of where I wanted that panther to be. This isn't set in stone, I can adjust this later on as I progress through the painting. So I'm gradually applying darker and darker washes over the top of my original green wash, adding some blue and adding some black into that mix to darken it up. Then, with some slightly lighter colours, just adding a bit of variation, some yellows. So I've done that, still using this 1-inch flat brush and thin washes of paint, I decided to block in the shapes of my jaguar. And again, just building up, so adding darker layers on the top, I'm just blocking in the main structures and the main shadows of that jaguar as best as I possibly can, following my reference picture as closely as possible. Again, as this is a sketch, I'm not really too fussed about it being exactly the same as my reference photo. If I was going to be doing this for a client, I would probably spend a little bit more time making sure that everything is exactly as I would like it and exactly matching that reference photo, or as close as possible to that reference photo as I can get. But for this, I'm just blocking in a basic structure. Then, just using a small filbert brush, I'm just blocking in some highlights, some lighter colours, just to establish some of the form. Okay, and again, I'm not focusing too much on detail, just blocking in where I want those lights to be. Still using that big filbert brush, I'm just blocking in some lighter layers of fur, working from dark to light as I do with all my paintings, using that big brush first just to block in the direction and the main structures of where I want that highlighted fur to be. So the colours I'm using are a mix of burnt umber and phthalo blue, and I'm just using them to make my blacks, to make my blues and my greys for this piece. For the eye, I'm using a bit of yellow ochre and some green, and adding some white to give it that minty green look. For all the details, I use a small detail brush that I buy from The Works here in the UK. Not sure if you have anything that's the same as that in America or in other places around the world, but in the UK, it's just a craft shop and a general artsy supplies shop and general games, kids' toys, things like that, but they stock their own brand of detail brushes. And these are about £1, but they're so good for what I need them for. They don't last very long, not usually longer than 1 or 2 paintings, but that's all you really need. When you're going for details, it's really important that you use sharp, brand new brushes to give those sharp, thin lines. So I'm just using this detail brush to build up some highlights and some individual strands of fur, just adding some white to my bluey mix. Making sure not to use pure white, because you wouldn't find pure white very often in nature. It's important that you don't use pure white in your paintings until the very end. You only want to save it for very final touches, because once you've put that white down, you can't go any brighter. So you need to save it and make sure it's used in the right places. To finish it off and add some spots, I just glazed over the top with some black paint. I wanted this to appear a little bit flatter, so I used pure black straight out of the tube, and I just glazed it over the top with thin washes of that black paint and a small round brush. So for the whiskers and those fine details, I used a dagger brush. These are one of the best brushes I've ever had the pleasure of using. I think I got mine's a Pro Art dagger brush or sword liner. I really recommend getting your hands on one, especially if you're into painting fine details and wildlife like this, or even hair on people. It's fantastic for that too. I finished it off by using the filbert brush just to abstract up the piece, as I always do, because I like to add a little bit of variation to my paintings. And here is the finished piece. I added a few more colours that I didn't get to film, but you get the general gist of it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, and for more wildlife art tips, please head on over to studiowildlife.com.